Cheltea school fees like Rosa for mom Gertrude. Chelta gore malome anse gold tooth ya gae ko mashonisa. And that's mine. This is the reality most South Africans have to deal with. Even after you get married, the families around still have certain expectations from you to look after your cousins, your siblings, your aunt, your uncles, girlfriends, babies, a whole family. In today's episode, we discuss family tax. We sit with an interracial couple who've had to deal with family tax.
You'll just pick up an ear saying,
Yes. A lady who's had to deal with family tax from her husband's side.
Most of the responsibilities at home are coming from my side. So they're not gonna necessarily vanish when I get married.
And a clinical psychologist who's an expert in this matter.
It's unreasonable emotional demands that come with financial expectations.
Hey, make sure.
Most of you know me as a stand-up comedian.
I saw a guy who had a sign that said, "I'm so angry, I made a sign." What?
Ntho sa tsebeng ke gore ke le timer ya jola and ke nagana wait gore maybe one day le nna ke tla ba husband.
It's rough.
Hey, re tla bona. Join me as I find out what happens after the vows. Welcome to After the Vows. In today's episode, we work on family tax. It's in black tax, family tax. Because how do it, guys? Family tax affects all of us. It doesn't matter if you're black, white, Indian, colored, Muslim, Jewish. It affects all of us. So I have my beautiful esteemed guests who have joined me here at my home. But before we get into it, I'd like for us to watch a quick clip and we'll jump straight into it. Is that cool?
Yeah.
It affects marriages in a very big way. Because now there's money. Remember, at home, mom is expecting some money. And you have bills that you have to pay in your own family. So if I'm taking money from my family and taking it back to my cousin, my mom, and now the household is suffering, it becomes a very difficult situation for the marriage.
My mom has a certain expectations that, yes, you're married, but I still want a certain lifestyle that I'm expecting my kids to, cuff out the bill for.
Tšhelete always ke yona bile the main core ya mo relationship e ka breakisang dilo tsotlhe. Tšhelete alesa ya affecta. So la nka le sa agree ya hore e be fair. I think equally e etsa hore ho avoid dintwa tse dintsi.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me at my home today, where we discuss something that's very close to all of our hearts, which is family tax. I just want to know from the floor, what is family tax to you?
For me, it's a simple thing. It's unreasonable emotional demands that come with financial expectations. It's emotional in a sense that is blackmail, and again, we've invested, so pay us back. This is why, for me, it's tax. By definition, a family is supposed to do what they have to do. So if it becomes now unreasonable that Noz's needs are neglected at the expense of what the family needs, then there's a double bind of emotional and financial taxation.
So how would you define family tax?
Family tax for me is, I grew up in a family where there was a lot that was invested in me to be who I am today. And it is sort of my responsibility to carry that forward. If I don't have money, then there's that emotional blackmail. I gave you 10,000 rand for you to register at school. So even though you don't have, you must go and make sure, even if you go and take a loan, so that this other person can go to school or whatever the cause may be.
Nick, you had a certain type of tax. Then you met your beautiful wife and realized there was another kind of tax. And you sort of had to have a mixed race tax. So tell us, Nick, what is family tax to you?
Family tax is like if someone in my family needs help, if we can afford, we will help them. Otherwise, it's like, sorry, dude, I cannot help you. But yeah, I think for us, being a mixed couple, we got sort of disowned from my family side for at least 3 years. So that gave us a little bit of a breather, to establish ourselves. From their side, the first 3 years or so was not really an issue. I think they didn't really put much burden on us. What I can really remember, unless you can remember something specific.
From my family's point of view, they didn't even have to ask. I could just see that.
When they saw Nick.
I mean,
There
will be those bold ones that will hear, you'll just pick up an ear saying,
Yes.
But, naturally so or generally, you just feel like, oh, Mama le guy le sharp, yo, ngwana ka hape wa itse ne re se- oh, ke mama even, tshwara. And I think what Nick taught me to do was earlier on in the marriage to say, we go into budget. Every month we're putting 300 Rand for family responsibility. And I was like, okay, then it grows, 300 Rand, 500 Rand. My love, my uncle so-and-so passed away. Re tlhoka dikuku, re tlhoka this, re tlhoka this. Oh, okay, we didn't budget for it. My love, yo, go na le leso high. Oh, okay. And then he'll give me extra. So, le nna he ke fitla go high. It's already expected to say, Hatsena, she's going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
You mentioned the fact that you sort of took it upon yourself.
Yeah.
Because you were like, this is what the family expects of me. Yes. I am this person. So our families often have these expectations of us.
It's positioning. There's a point where that it has to end. But there's also this imposed guilt. It's like if when you dress up, or you always, we were talking about this with Noza, that every time you're on TV, like, ha.
Yes.
Just after we've seen that episode,
I'm going to
there's
get
a
so
call.
many messages
now. So it's a matter of redefining boundaries and always positioning people that I may have assumed that responsibility and that role. But now, and again, if you change that redefinition, people are going to adjust at the end of the day. Some of us are not good friends with our mothers because the redefinition is very hard because you say, I can only do the essentials. And again, with extended family members, guys. No.
So
Every
why-
adult has
why-
got their own need. They've got to make sure, like I do, I overextend myself to work to make sure that my needs are met. That you can't do a basic human need to feed yourself. And you expect me at the end of the day, I pay your funeral policies, I take your kids to school, and then
buy
still have
groceries. I give you money to drink.
No.
Welcome back to After the Vows. Kajeno re bua ka topic ya family tax. And we ask, is it a burden or is it a responsibility? So, before we continue with our topic of discussion, I'd like for us to watch a little clip I've prepared for us, and then we'll take it from there.
Where do they come from if they're seedless grapes? They're like babies without belly buttons. Think about it.
Seedless grapes have their own processes that they go through before they become seedless grapes.
Ah, snap, baby. Remember my malume Josias from Hamaskar? He just sent me a message from China. I need you to give me 500 Rand to pay back the loan sharks. Otherwise, they are going to kill me. They're going to kill him.
We need to send them.
Yeah.
We can't. We don't have that in our budget. This month, it was my family's month.
Wait, what?
You are forgetting that your uncle's sister's cousin's son's daughter needed a new school bag.
Yeah. You acting like your uncle Rotodi didn't ask us for 5,000 Rand to get a new Maheu dispenser.
How about your mother who needed 1,500 Rand for a fresh mpura?
Yeah, that is true. She did, and we gave it to her.
Exactly.
You have a point. Okay, I'm gonna tell Malume Josias, Hari Malume, unfortunately, I can't help you this month. Rest in peace.
Shame wetu.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
As you've seen, the video that we played. I want to know what's your thoughts on what you've just seen.
I think from my side, from what I saw there, again, the simple thing goes to negotiation, tabling things out. Again, I have my own independent needs and my own things that I have. So we come together as couples without disregarding what is mine and what is yours. When we come together as couples or in marriage, we redefine what is ours. For as long as what is yours is not going to impact on what we have redefined, that's okay. So if your mother has the needs more than the other, as long you do your own project management with your mother, right? You deal with the parents or your mother or your father or your siblings for as long as what we have decided, our bonds and everything that we have committed to is not going to suffer.
I think for me, the transparency is also very important. I was very transparent that these are my responsibilities, and unfortunately, I cannot, get away from them in terms of my mom's bond, in terms of, sending them money to eat and stuff like that. And as a fairly new couple, I'll say it's still fairly, there hasn't been any issues that, this is becoming a problem, the bond issue or whatever the case. There hasn't, I'll be very honest. And I'm lucky in that extent.
Thank you. I love the fact that we've got a perspective from a new, fresh marriage. We can say that you're still in sort of your honeymoon phase. So let's go to 2 decades. 2 decades of love. How has family tax affected your marriage?
I had my mom who got sick, and she had cancer, and she battled. So I took self-imposed responsibility to say, I have to be the one that takes care of my mom, and went to Nick to say, my love, mom is sick. How do we then help? There's monthly bills of my mom getting sick. How do I then, I'm working, she needs to be taken to hospital. Who's gonna do that? The transport. Nick had to be understanding to say, okay, with mom being sick, mom is coming to stay with us. So the life had, our life had to be adjusted. We've got my mom who's very sick, who's staying with us every day. And it means when she gets ill at night, it's me and Nick who gets up, helps me, we get her in the car, rush to the hospital. And it really took a serious toll on us, on our marriage, financially, emotionally. We were living together, but we were not together.
Nick, what were you going through at that time?
Yeah, that was heavy. My mom-in-law was having cancer, and she was literally in the last stages, so that took a heavy toll on our marriage. But, we try to help wherever we can. When my wife had to take her to hospital, I will take care of the little one, for example. We tried to share responsibilities. I was also traveling a lot during that stage, so you take it as it goes and you make the most of it.
Anela, how does family tax affect a marriage in the long term, in the short term, in the long term? How does family tax affect marriages?
I think it puts an emotional strain in the quality of the relationship, not just it's about the quality of the relationship. You need to have a partner who's going to be very good for your soul. So in simple terms, we just need, again, to really emphasize the importance of premarital counseling. Even before you can get into a relationship, get to understand, because what I come with, there are certain things that can never change. So if you get married into my life, you get married to my personality, to my character, to things around me. And it's so difficult. And again, how do you merge or how do you reconcile someone who's been raised as a very independent person, who comes from a very independent family, and match that person with someone who has black text and all of that, it takes a lot of unlearning for the other partner to get into this world of having to understand interdependence.
Welcome back to After the Vows, Kajenuribuaka Family Tax. And I want to know from my guests, Hore, what have they done to cut the umbilical cord? Lady Nosy, wait, have you cut the umbilical cord?
To some extent, definitely. I mean, I do have those moments where I'm like, oh, okay, I could ease into it, this particular request. But, you know, for example, there's circumstances where, oh, so-and-so didn't have a funeral cover, we have to chip in. I'm like, I can't chip in. And it was like a big thing. Oh, no, they can't chip in. And I'm like, no, guys, I cannot chip in. I'm not going to do that, you know. So it's definitely, you know, it wasn't easy.
Yes.
From someone who used to receive, you know, everything that they want from a phone call, now having to set boundaries. I've definitely, no, I've had to.
Anela, you look so proud.
Very proud. Very proud. I'm a cheerleader of self-care. And self-care starts with self-love and loving yourself. You don't compromise everything that you stand for.
Oh, I love that.
So,
I love that.
What Nosy has done is, and she says it's a continuous process and continuously redefining what you are to these people. Eventually, what you've said to your mother, you have your own life. I can only participate in the way that I can. Because of we do so much for mother-in-laws. You mean some of you are an in-law, there are demands and expectations. You have to be makoti, who has to show up. You've got your own family. At the end of the day, you get depleted. In fact, in relationships, we've got more demands than resources. Emotional demands, financial demands, expectations from others. And eventually for me is self-care is also prioritizing your needs first, and everyone comes after that.
I love that. I love that. What's your situation now? Have you cut the umbilical cord?
You know, cutting the umbilical cord becomes a challenge because they've always expected, because you've also taught them that you can give them. But I think when we set a boundary and when it came to a point where it was like, now the line is drawn, it is no more. The taps are closed. You know, you can see as people, small attitudes, they grow, you know, and also, you know, some people, they throw in comments, then they don't ask her, you know, you're not going to get anything. You know, they say it in front of you so that you pick it up. But I think what has been important to me, especially, is to accept that it's okay, I cannot help, and not feel guilty about it, and understand that it is actually for the betterment of our own marriage and to make sure that we grow together as a couple. I mean, where we are now, we are thriving in terms of our relationship because of certain boundaries that he has helped me to draw. And I'm grateful that we got to draw those boundaries. Yes, it took time for me to get there, but I'm glad that I got there because now I don't have to feel guilty. And now I understand that I think mainly what is important is that I've learned that I've contributed in destroying their lives instead of helping them grow.
Nick?
One thing that I can really give people advice is also when a genuine need comes, you know, listen to it, think about it, don't give in immediately. Think about it, pray about it, discuss about it. Let God give you the wisdom to answer those questions, you know, and come up with a solution. Maybe money is not necessarily the solution.
So how important would you say it is to communicate to your future spouse before you get married about your family, about your situation, about your family?
People often in relationships communicate to put a point across than to understand. Until we communicate so that we understand each other, and it goes back to what I said, understanding even smallest dynamics Other people have been in previous marriages. Others it's first time. And it's this new whole world of living with you and other people and having to share our resources. It's quite taxing. So we kind of imagine Cinderella and Prince Charming, that it's going to be us. Whereas with Nick and Ulysses, it has been a great deal of learning and unlearning, cultural shock, cultural differences. She's a modern woman. Now, Sigi or Manfred, and then she has to have some smaller cash so that when she comes in, those uncles, and then she has all of those demands. So we need to help people understand cultural variations. And when you say, I don't have, I really don't have.
Why would you say a lot of married couples are afraid to cut the umbilical cord? What are they afraid of?
Whenever someone gives for me psychologically, there's always a need. It could be for validation, still the need to feel you belong. You know, as Africans, we've got names we give. Oh, now we as born, and you think you have landed. So you will bury yourself. So to gain that alliance and allegiance, it's more like it's a tick for tat kind of a thing.
I feel like I've learned so much from today, and I think the one thing that's very clear to me is boundaries. Setting boundaries and establishing them very early. One thing comes to mind when I think about all of this, and it's what they tell you in the airplane, that in order to assist another passenger, you have to put your mask on first. So you can't rush to put oxygen masks on other people when you haven't put one on yourself. So the best way for you to help others is to help yourself first. Some of us feel burdened, we feel guilty that we want to alleviate our families from poverty, but the truth of the matter is sometimes you are breaking yourself. You are putting yourself in a situation where you can't even have money for the things you need to try and help people who, as Anele says, could have helped themselves, who would have found a way. So, tabatsale nyalo. Hi, Anele, how should we retlo nyala? Guys, as each episode keeps going, I always ask myself the question, what happens after the vows? And how close am I to this journey of marriage? Conversations like this make me realize just how intricately detailed this marriage road is. Thank you so much for tuning in and watching After the Vows. Remember to keep on talking to us on all our social media platforms. Next week. Bye.